Now, we have 3 campuses at Nottingham Trent University, but the one that I'm going to briefly talk to you about is our city campus, because this is where our School of Art and Design and School of Architecture, Design and the Built Environment are based. And this is right in the heart of the centre of Nottingham, so extremely convenient for access to shops, bars, restaurants, cafes, and of course to your classes, and because we have on-campus accommodation available. Our School of Art and Design is probably the school that we are most famous for globally, particularly within East Asia, which is why Wallace is joining me today. And we were originally established as an institution as the Nottingham Government School of Design. This is almost 180 years ago now. And so this really is where the university's heritage and its culture comes from. And this is possibly one of the main reasons why we have such a strong reputation in the area, and why we are now in the QS World Top 100 universities for art and design. We welcome many students from Taiwan to this particular school. You might know it as a faculty, and some of our most popular courses are listed on screen, including our fashion business suite, and of course our creative art and design programs such as MA Fashion, MA Illustration, Graphic Communication and Animation as well. We have a fantastic student community here, both on campus and also our online student community, which is known as Join. This is a community of collective creative minds that's now 3,500 people strong, and this includes internal and external individuals that perhaps deliver talks and presentations to our students over the year. A really great thing for you to be involved in, to really feel that sense of art and design community here at NTU. We have a new facility opening as well, which should hopefully be open just in time for the arrival of some of you. And this is a £35 million facility being open specifically for design and digital arts. So this will be part of our School of Art and Design. So any of you with an interest in things like film, animation, or UX or UI design and illustration, you may well be based in this building in future. And of course, I mentioned our School of Architecture, Design and Built Environment. This is different to Wallace's school, but again, an area that is very, very popular with our Taiwanese students. I know I've spoken to several of you this morning that are tuned into this call, and this is the school in which our interior architecture and design program is based, as well as our MSc design programs, which focus on products and technology and products and furniture. This is very much a school that's based on a studio culture where we work on live briefs and projects, and the real emphasis of these courses is that our design, our style is very much student-led design. So we're here to facilitate your ideas, your creativity, and not dictate things to you. I know that that's really popular and really important to many of our Taiwanese students. If you'd like to take a look at some examples of our students' work from this school, you can do so by visiting the page at the bottom of your screen. Speaking of our students, we're one of the UK's largest universities with approximately 39,000 students, and around 16% of those students come from overseas. So I think we offer a really nice blend here at Nottingham Trent, where you have a very British university experience, because of course most of the students on campus are from the UK, but you also have a sizable international community of several thousand students. So you can rely on those people for support, and for people that are in a similar boat to you that can perhaps share experiences with you as well. We have over 160 nationalities represented now at NTU, so a really diverse community. If you'd like to hear from some of our Taiwanese students, you can do that by visiting our page, our Taiwan page, which is on screen. This is Jasmine and Fan Wei. Fan Wei is actually one of Daphne's former students. So Daphne, who has helped to arrange this session today, and supported Fan Wei on his journey to studying MA Interior Architecture and Design. So please do visit our page to find out more from our students themselves. There's some really great interviews there. The last few years has been a period of unprecedented success for NTU, and we've received several awards in recent years, and we've actually been named the UK University of the Year. I think it's 4 times in the last 5 or 6 years. So we were named the University of the Year in 2017, the Modern University of the Year in 2018, the University of the Year again in 2019, and then in the Uni Compare rankings, we were named the 2nd best UK university, and this was based on student responses to questions about the quality of their course, their accommodation, student lifestyle, and whether or not they would recommend NTU to a friend. We came 2nd out of around 130 UK institutions, so we're really, really proud of that. This period of success continued this year, where we were named the UK's best university for international student experience. Again, this was a student choice voted awards. So this is based on student responses to questions. And we also won the student life category. So a great place to live and the experience, particularly for international students. And then more recently, again, later this year, we were named the Modern University of the Year again. So it really has been a fantastic 5 years for Nottingham Trent, one that as alumni, a period of which I'm really, really proud. The proof is in the statistics, I would say, about what students think about the university. We've been first in the UK for 4 consecutive years for the number of students accepting offers to study with us. And this hasn't just been in 1 or 2 subjects. This has been across numerous subjects. In fact, we've been in the top 5 UK universities for the number of students accepting offers with us in 17 different subjects for several years now. And we've been the 10th most applied for university for 4 consecutive years as well. This, of course, is based on UCAS data, so undergraduate applications, but I think this really tells you what students think about our institution. We offer fantastic employability and career support. So, of course, every university should be offering careers guidance and advice. But I think what really makes us stand out is that we don't simply offer students this support whilst they are an NTU student. We provide this support for free for up to 3 years after you graduate. So if you do need that assistance from our careers and employability experts, they are here on hand to help you, not just during your studies, but afterwards as well. On the page here, you can see some useful information and useful web pages. The one in particular that I would recommend that you do visit is the information and entry requirements for Taiwan, for students from Taiwan, because this details information about our exclusive scholarships that are just for students from Taiwan. So we offer a scholarship worth up to £4,000 for Taiwanese applicants that have offers to study with us. But overall at the university, we offer a range of international scholarships as well, which are worth up to 50% of the tuition fee. You can take a look at our campuses, including our accommodation and facilities, and by visiting the virtual tour page on our campus page at the bottom of the screen. And also you can find out more about our specific courses and how to apply by visiting the other pages on screen. Finally, if you have any questions at all after today, you're very welcome to contact me directly on the email address on screen. But also, as I've mentioned, you can contact our partner, Daphne at Gingham, on the email address shown here as well. She's got many years of experience of supporting applicants to NTU, and I'm very sure that she'll be happy to help. That's all from me. I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Wallace, who's going to be the main event of today's session. Wallace, over to you.
See it okay?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wallace Murdoch. I'm head of academic projects within the School of Art and Design. What I'm going to do today is talk about portfolio submission, but really focus on demonstrating your creative process within that portfolio submission. So I'm going to be showing you lots and lots of visual information to give you a really good insight into what we mean by process and what we look for within a portfolio submission. And I'm going to talk about both undergraduate and postgraduate level study. So I'm part of the School of Art and Design at Nottingham Trent University, which is a very large School of Art and Design. We are one of the leading schools of art and design in the UK with over 175 years of experience. And we're located, as Dave's already mentioned, right in the heart of the city of Nottingham, which is a very creative and fashion-focused city. And our philosophy is very much learning by doing. So the majority of our courses are very practically based, and they're very much about students personalising their learning as they work through the courses with us. I always think it's worthwhile to contextualise the creative industries within the UK context. There's over 2.1 million people in the UK who work in the creative industry. There's 3.5 million jobs dependent on the creative industry, which is more than 1 in 10 UK jobs. Pre-pandemic, creative jobs were growing at 3 times the UK average. And the creative industries contribute 116 billion to the UK economy. That's more than aerospace, automotive, life science, oil and gas. And the creative industry is growing at a rate of 4 to 1 across the wider system. So the creative industries are incredibly buoyant within the UK, and there's a huge amount of opportunities within those industries. But what's very, very interesting is also the future focused insight into skills required, and this comes from the World Economic Forum, where 50% of all employers will need reskilling by 2025 as the adoption of technology increases. And really interestingly, critical thinking and problem solving are top the list of skills employers believe will grow in prominence in the next 5 years. And they're some of the key skills that we actually develop within our students within the School of Art and Design. Obviously, creativity, originality, and initiative feature really highly. And newly emerging this year are skills in self-management such as active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. And these are all key things that actually are part of the curriculum within the School of Art and Design and art and design education in the UK. So we're really equipping our students to be ready for the future workforce, whatever area they actually choose to go in to. The development of those skills within an undergraduate or postgraduate degree will really help students be prepared for the future in terms of employability. And the really interesting thing, I think, post-lockdown is that 35% of all creative sector jobs in the future don't exist. The graduates of the future are creating those jobs through the use of technology, through the use of digital applications. So there's a huge future within the creative industries, both in the UK and globally. These are some questions that I always ask students when they're selecting a course of study. They're just points of consideration. Why did you select your course of study? Will the course continue to stimulate and motivate you? Do you fully understand the content and delivery at the institution you've selected? And that's something that's very important because students sometimes think that courses are the same in every institution. And as we all know, they're very, very different. So have you researched what is required at different institutions? And do you fit that criteria? i.e., do you have the appropriate skills required to study in the course at the level that you're actually applying? And will the course help you reach your future career ambitions? These are all things that I always suggest to students when they're actually considering a further course of study. People always ask us, why do we ask for a portfolio in art and design? And it really shows us you. It shows us your creative ability, your ability to develop ideas. It shows us your individuality and imagination, your level of both creative and technical skills, but also your personality through your work. And personality within the work and individuality is very important. And I always say to students, if they have the opportunity to have an interview, then that's a really important aspect of the application process. So if you have the opportunity to have an interview, always take that interview because it provides you with the opportunity to find out as much about the university as the university finding out about you and your creative work. So what is a portfolio? It's really an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to showcase who you are. It's a collection of your creative work. It is highly personal to every student and can include and be anything within the context of the portfolio requirements that are applicable within each institution. So what should you include? It's really, really important to include primary and secondary research. It's important that you include your most interesting pieces of work, but also you have to be selective within that portfolio. So we don't want to see every piece of work that you've done, but we do want to see a good cross-section of work that you've selected. And that selection process is a really important part of the portfolio submission. We really want to see unrefined and development work, and I'm going to talk a lot more about the development work within the process area. We want to see a wide range of ideas and media, again, as appropriate to your subject, experimentation with process, and your creative journey through sketch and ideas books are all really important ingredients within that portfolio development. So that creative journey is important, and your creative process within that journey is what we're going to talk more about today. So there's a slight difference between the undergraduate and the postgraduate portfolio. With an undergraduate portfolio, you're very much at the start of your creative journey. So we do want to see your concepts and ideas. We want to see a good set of core art and design skills. We do want to see some work that's project based in relation to the undergraduate course of study, whether it be fashion design, graphic design, or product design. So it's important that part of the portfolio is highly relevant to your course of study. We also want to see an understanding of current issues and context. So it may be particular areas of focus that are happening within your subject area. I mean, take for instance, sustainability within fashion. So we want to see some broader context within that portfolio, but really we want to see that demonstration of the passion for the subject, and that should come out within the work that you provide. It's very, very important, both undergraduate and postgraduate, that you actually check specific portfolio requirements for each institution. They can be very different between one country and another, but equally they can actually be very different from one university to the other. So it's really important to be sure exactly what they're asking you to submit, but also if you're submitting a digital portfolio, which most international students do, make sure that you actually submit it within the correct digital format, because admissions tutors see lots of portfolios, and if they can't open it, then that will be problematic in processing your application. Postgraduate portfolio is obviously slightly different. We still want to see that individual and personal creative ideas in your sketch and ideas books, but we do really want to see examples of your concepts and ideas have informed your creative development. So that creative development is very important at postgraduate level. We want to see evidence of your individual research methodology and working process, and that really enables us to understand whether you can actually move from undergraduate to postgraduate and actually you have the right skill set to do so. So we're really interested in examples of both your technical knowledge and your understanding of the specialist subject. And we want to see evidence of fully resolved professional creative outcomes. But that creative journey is still very, very important at postgraduate. And it really enables us to determine whether you have the right skill base to go on to higher level study. So when we talk about process, these are some of the key things that we really want you to demonstrate within process. So we want you to demonstrate your understanding of how you successfully answer a range of project briefs. So we do want to see more than one project within your portfolio. We want to see that versatility and diversity. We want you to demonstrate the ability to gather and use visual research, and that's visual research appropriate to your subject, but it should be from a wide variety of sources. And we want to see how you apply this effectively within each stage of the creative process. And that creative process is quite different depending on the subject that you choose to study. We want to see the ability to understand where your work fits within a particular market context and develop market research accordingly. And again, I'll show you some examples of what I mean by that. And the ability to translate ideas from 2D to 3D as appropriate to your subject discipline, and document this working process in order to demonstrate your level of analysis and evaluation within your subject area. And that level of analysis and evaluation within the subject is very, very important, particularly if you want to move from undergraduate to postgraduate. We want you to demonstrate your ability to explore and apply colour and select, experiment and apply relevant media for an appropriate final product outcome. So we would expect all students to demonstrate those skills. We also want you to show the required technical and manufacturing skills appropriate to your specialist subject. We really want to see a personal working methodology, particularly at postgraduate, and a working process that communicates your understanding of each stage of the design process, from concept to design development and final design application. And then, as I said earlier, within that portfolio submission, we really want you to demonstrate originality and your personality through your creative approach to problem solving. What I'm now going to do is go through each of these bullet points and show you some examples of what I mean by these in terms of how you would actually demonstrate it. There's a wide range of different slides, more slides in some areas than others. So demonstrate your understanding of how you successfully answer a range of project briefs. And what we mean by this, for example, is an undergraduate portfolio. And I've got 3 slides here that show a range of work that a student at undergraduate level has presented. Obviously, an undergraduate student is at the start of their creative development. So this student has shown some sort of drawing skills. They've then developed the work into a digital project. They've also demonstrated a range of other projects within the context of the subject. They've done a video, they've done a 2D to 3D project, they've done some typography work. And then in the final slides, they've actually demonstrated the application within that graphic design context. So within these 3 pages, you can clearly see the different skills that the student has actually demonstrated for entry to an undergraduate course. At postgraduate, that'd be very different. And here we can actually see a much more sophisticated approach to the design process. The portfolio is very much focused on the subject of graphic design, graphic communication. The student has demonstrated a range of different approaches to projects, but also you can clearly see within different projects a different approach, a different engagement with a range of different clients. So within those 2 small examples, you can see the difference between undergraduate and postgraduate, but also the level of process that we actually look for. So in terms of demonstrating the ability to gather and use visual research from a wide variety of sources and apply this within each stage of the creative process, I'm going to show you a range of different approaches to recording visual information, and then an example of how a student has worked through a project. So depending on the subject that you're actually applying for, we would like to see different approaches to drawing and idea development. We would like to see examples here in the sketchbook of your individual creative process and how you've actually worked through that. Evidence of your understanding of the design process within the sketch and workbooks here and the exercises that the students have actually undertaken. And then some examples of more developed ideas. So if we go back across those slides, again, you can actually see that the process has been evidenced and demonstrated. And then here's some examples of different approaches to the development of ideas. What I'm going to show you now is a live brief that one of our students has actually completed. Now you may not show all this work within your portfolio, but you might show examples of it to really demonstrate the way that you've actually applied your ideas within a live brief. So as we can see here, the student is looking at a particular brand. They've had a brief from this bread company in terms of developing they've done some initial analysis. They've then started the research in terms of actually positioning the brand. So they're demonstrating that understanding. They're then actually looking at the brand DNA and actually working through this. This is a graphic communication student. They're then starting to develop that visual identity through their particular way of working. In this case, the student has actually looked at liner cutting to actually develop the visual narrative. Then looking at different applications for the product that they've actually developed in terms of their visual ideas. different application for the product within the takeaway packaging. And as you can see, the students really understanding that touch point for the customer within this and showing their understanding of the process. Reusable merchandise is touch point 2. Touch point 3 is a shop front design. And then the social media, and then the final product. So as you can see within this, there's a real process there. There's a real understanding of who you develop and take ideas, and you actually develop that within the appropriate context of your specialist subject. And we really want to see, particularly at postgraduate level, that students can actually develop and understand the application within a real context and produce a professionally resolved outcome like you see here. The next stage is demonstrate the ability to understand where your work fits within a particular market context and develop market research accordingly. And there were some examples of that in the previous example, but as you can see, this particular graphic image project was very much about branding and typography. And the brief was very much to find a genre, song or musical movement that best represents a cause and use typography to bring it to life, to create a typography-led integrated graphic design campaign that uses Google Fonts. So there's a real market context here. The concept was very much destroy the machines, which is a direct action protest movement centered around earth liberation through eco-defense to save the planet and animal liberation. So this application understanding of market context is really important, with a clear focus in terms of the brief, but also a clear focus in terms of who the intended end user is and the development of ideas within that context. Here you can see the development of the work from the student, where they're approaching it in a number of different ways to use that typography. And again, simply using colour in a different way demonstrates that critical evaluation of process and critical evaluation of the subject. And then the application within a real life context in terms of the poster design. And then you have some mobile phone apps. So again, you can actually see the process here, how the student has actually worked through the process. I've also put a fashion design example in here just to give you a different sense. And as you can see in this student has very much looked at where they're positioning their work, with it, in this case, at a market level with the Japanese fashion brand Y3. And again, that's something that we encourage our students to do, is really understand the context. You can see from these pages that the student has really looked at that brand, understood the brand values, understood the market and customer, and then made the appropriate design development applicable within this brand. Now, within your portfolio, you may only submit a page like this, but it really demonstrates that understanding of your market awareness and your customer awareness. Demonstrate the ability to translate ideas from 2D to 3D and document this working process in order to demonstrate your level of analysis and evaluation within your subject. I've used 2D to 3D because it's really easy to show this as an example, but in some cases it may not be 2D to 3D. It may only be 2D because that's the media that you would actually work in. But if we take something like fashion design, that ability to translate ideas from 2D to 3D is very important. But we're very interested in that process that you go through. I don't want to see the concept and then the final application. I want to see your critical journey and the way that you've developed ideas and the way that you've tried and tested ideas and worked through them. And these are just some examples of the way that our students, the undergraduate, would develop that process and then submit a portfolio that's very much applicable for postgraduate study. And here you can see where the students have actually worked on a project together and have actually sort of developed the idea from initial drawings and ideas to that 3D application. It's also really important to show process as part of your portfolio, because that process in some cases, particularly in the case of fashion design and tailoring, it is a complex process, a very sophisticated process, and you may have actually solved a really challenging problem within that process. So the documentation and demonstration of process is highly relevant and important within a portfolio submission. Again, you can see process here, where the student has, on the left-hand side, has documented that journey from the initial concept and idea, and then the translation through the trialing stage to the final product application. And again, on the right here, you can see that within a fashion context. But equally, these are product design students, again, who've actually developed from the initial stages of drawing to the prototype and then working through to that final application. And this page is a really good example of that initial starting point where the student has actually done the market research, looked at a variety of product, started to develop through working drawings, and then they've actually produced a final product. And again, same student here, different sort of initial research, but really working through that research and design development, but really demonstrating that process. Again, another project from the same student. And again, you can see here that this student is actually demonstrating a range of different skills, but really showing that process, showing that level of analysis and evaluation. And this is a really nice example of showing the process the student has gone through, who they've actually worked with to develop the work. And that's really interesting within a digital submission to see how the student has actually worked from the sketch through to the process to the final product application. And this is the final outcome. So as you can see from those slides, it really shows that 2D to 3D translation and that journey, that creative questioning, that ability for you as a creative individual to really show how you work through your ideas. Demonstrate the ability to explore and apply colour and select and experiment with a relevant range of media. And this one's fairly self-explanatory. As creative individuals, colour will be a really important part of what you actually do. And these are just some examples of the way that students have really explored colour, both in the initial and design development, but also in that final practical application. You can see at the top of the middle slide where the student has really explored a wide range of fabric and then actually applied that within the final creative context. Graphic design here, where a student has actually used, in one case, very strong colour, and in the other case, very limited colour, and the relationship between image and text to really communicate a really powerful message. These are some examples of creative research from a student who was actually exploring through colour the ITV, which is a TV station in the UK, but actually you can see through these 9 images a really creative approach to that. And some 2D to 3D application here again, but actually using colour as a means to actually communicate the creative ideas, but also that creative journey. So demonstrating colour within your portfolio is really important. And demonstrating your technical and manufacturing skills are appropriate to your subject are really important. And that manufacturing base will be very different for each subject area. But this is some examples of an MA student work to give you an example of the kind of journey that a student would go through. And this student was actually one of our fashion and creative pattern cutting students. So she developed both conceptual ideas and then worked through the technical process. So you've got the starting point, which is very much those initial ideas, looking at market, looking at context. The focus was very much on sustainable fashion and less waste. So she was actually looking at how she developed that. You can see the start of the creative journey here and the documentation of fabric. She started to twirl her ideas here from 2D to 3D. And this is a lovely example of that creative journey. You can really see the process here. You can see the way that the student is thinking, the way that the student's actually developing their ideas. I can get a really good understanding here of the student's both creative and technical skills. Again, a lovely example of how the student has actually worked through quite a detailed pattern cutting process to produce this prototype. They've looked at technology applicable, documented their sewing process, and then, as you can see, working through that final development, and here using the relevant technology within their subject area, which in this case is lecture, and looking at less waste pattern cutting to sort of ensure that they actually maximize the fabric. Again, a lovely page on that creative journey and that questioning and analytical process, final fabric developments, and then a final product outcome. So you can really see that journey there. You can see that questioning approach that the students actually made, but also you can see a real understanding and subject knowledge within that. And that's what we're actually looking for within that. This is obviously a student who's been on a master's degree, but it gives you an idea of what you would have to achieve if you undertook a master's degree and that level of documentation and process that we're actually looking for. The personal working methodology is going to be completely individual to each student. So no portfolio would be the same. Every portfolio would actually be very different. But it really is that opportunity to see each stage of the design process, from concept to design development and final product application. And this is a textile student's work, very different from the fashion students. But again, you can see that creative process. You can see where they're actually interested in terms of their creative development. You can see them working through different 2D to 3D applications. But that creative journey, again, you can see that level of experimentation, the visual research, the development. And then the final few slides are really about demonstrating your originality and personality through your creative approach to problem solving. Every student's different. Every student will actually explore their work in a different way. And these are just some examples of the way that students have demonstrated their individuality in the final product outcome. These are some examples of our fashion knitwear students. They're all very different. They've all adopted a very, very different approach to what they do. And that individuality is what we're looking for. Textile design student, graphic students, again, a wide range of different projects. So there's no one way to show your process. There's no one way to produce a final outcome. But the most important thing is that we can really see that journey to produce this outcome. We can see your level of criticality. And these final slides are a really good example of a final year student who was actually doing a motion and animation design project. And they really just show very quickly how the student has actually worked through in some very simple set of slides, really demonstrates a process. So that gives you an insight into what we mean when we talk about process within portfolio development. So we really want to see your journey. We really want to see the way that you question, the way that you analyze. Obviously, you may not include as much information as some of that process I've shown you, because obviously it's important that you're selective and you show a wide range of process. But particularly for postgraduate students, demonstrating that process, that understanding of your subject, and that ability to take your work from undergraduate to postgraduate is really, really important. So thank you. And any questions?
I want to know, is there some advice for space design? Like what you're talking about is about some like the commercial design, something like that. But I want to have some understand that I want to have some information is for the interior design student.
Okay, that's not actually within my skill, but actually the that creative process would still be the same. So you want to show your process. So you want to show your initial 2-dimensional drawings. Then if you've actually done 3-dimensional modeling, because it's that translation from 2D to 3D that's very, very important from an interior student as much as it is for a fashion student. So really sort of demonstrating your process and how you've gone from 2D to 3D and that final application. Because very often what students do is they submit some initial drawings and then they show us the final design. But we're really interested in that journey and that level of criticality that you actually adopt within that journey. So interior architecture would very much be similar in terms of actually, or interior design would be really showing that journey and really show a bit like the product design, where you'd show initial sketches, you'd move through a prototype, and then you may have a final application. So every subject is slightly different. You know, a graphic student would be different from a fashion student, but it's that creative journey and that process appropriate to their discipline that's really, really important, because it really helps us understand that you have the right level of criticality to move from undergraduate to postgraduate. So collage and montage pages of your work together with sketchbooks and ideas are very, very important, because it really gives us an insight into who you are, the way that you think, what you're actually interested in it. So that creative process is still applicable across most art and design subjects. But for instance, if you were doing photography, it would be very different. But we'd want to see, for instance, with a photographer, how they selected the photographs, the narrative behind them. So every subject's slightly different. But, you know, an interior design student, although the content would be different, the actual process still needs to be included within that portfolio.
Thank you, Wallace. We had another question from Yu Chao, who's asked, can we include projects from different subjects in the portfolio that is applying for the undergraduate course? So do students for undergraduate have to just include designs that are specific to their subject area, or can they include things from other areas within art and design more broadly?
No, for undergraduate you can include projects, a wide variety of projects. We would expect to see at least one project that's focused towards the major that you're interested in. So if you're interested in fashion design, we'd like to see some evidence that of that interest, of examples of 2D to 3D, but it may not be a fully resolved garment. It may be a prototype garment. But certainly from an undergraduate perspective, we would be looking more for those core skills in terms of drawing, idea development, color application. But we would want to see some evidence of a fashion related project so that we can understand that you understand the skill base that you've got and how it could be applied within that. But we don't expect you to be a fashion designer before you come, certainly not at undergraduate. So we're looking for potential, and it may be a really interesting 2D to 3D project that you actually include that really demonstrates those skills. But we'd expect to see some evidence within your sketch and ideas books of you're interested in fashion or graphics or product design, so that we can get really good insight into why you want to study that subject. Because sometimes students don't really understand that something like fashion is actually very technical, which is why I showed you the example of the pattern cutting one, where, you know, fashion design is a creative, but also it's a technical subject. And you need that knowledge of both, for instance, to progress from undergraduate to postgraduate.
Thanks, Wallace. I have added my email address in the chat box. If anybody would like to contact me after the event, you're very welcome to do that. And of course, you can contact Daphne, who's on the call. You can see Daphne at the bottom of the screen, and she'll be able to answer any questions about the Nottingham Trent application process as well. And that's to both Wallace's school, the School of Art and Design, and also to our School of Architecture, Design and Built Environment. We have other subjects, of course, but I know you guys are design students mainly. But yeah, please do let us know if we can help.